Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. BW Businessworld presents BW Global Dialogue, India Uzbekistan Investment Corridor, powered by Trust Legal. We're talking today about developing the future prospects of investment opportunities in India and Uzbekistan. Now, these two countries, we want to create, or rather strengthen, the business world bonds between these two countries which have historical ties. I'm sure you know of them. The Mughal Empire came from Uzbekistan. One of the most famous poet that we've heard of in our lifetime is Mirza Ghalib, who is also from Uzbekistan. And I've had the fortunate opportunity to visit this beautiful country. And I'm sure a lot of you who are watching this call right now would love to visit there, because both of these countries have great historical ties, cultural ties. And today we are proud and privileged that we are able to create this platform where we have the dignitaries from both the countries, along with His Excellency of Uzbekistan and India. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to be the host to this evening. I'm Khyati Kawa, your host. And to begin the inaugural session for this evening, I would like to welcome on screen Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, BW Businessworld and Exchange for Media Group, also known as the Media Mughal of India, creating millions of different IPs and creating this impact in the business world. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Batra.
Thank you so much, Khyati, for the kind introduction. I'm glad you experienced the Republic of Uzbekistan, because clearly that makes your conviction in what we are about to do even go beyond the formal engagement that we have with you. But let me start by welcoming first His Excellency Mr. Dilshad Akatov, who is the Ambassador of the Republic of Uzbekistan in India. Thank you, His Excellency Mr. Dilshad Akatov, for being here today and kicking off this inaugural dialogue. We are doing this virtually this year, as we become a virtual economy, a contactless economy. But we hope to do this in person and hopefully in Uzbekistan every year and in India every year. So take alternate turns to do it. So it will start that BW Businessworld has partnered with Trust Legal to make it, Mr. Sudhir Mishra. I would also like to welcome His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat, who's India's ambassador to the Republic of Uzbekistan, for also being here and gracing this occasion and really making sure that we have the spirit of partnership reflected in your presence and your address and your encouragement to this forum. This is the start of an initiative. We're doing it in times which are challenging, and focusing our energies on constructive and new initiatives in some way can help us focus on the future and really build that future in some way. I'd also like to welcome my friend, my partner, and a collaborator, and in some way the originator of this idea, Mr. Sudhir Mishra, who's a partner at Trust Legal. Let me also say Mr. Murari Jalan, who's been doing business in CIS for 3 decades, and specifically Uzbekistan for the last 10 years. He has a 5-star luxury resort coming up in a major city. He is doing real estate development in some city, for joining as a keynote address. We also have Dr. Atul Chauhan, who is the Chancellor of the Amity University, and he's the president of the RITNAND BALVED Education Trust Foundation, and he's also the CEO of the AKC Group of Companies, for joining us today. His presence adds to it because he's already set up a Amity University in Tashkent, and off the screen, he was very forthcoming of the ease of doing business in Uzbekistan. And we know since in the current regime with the president, in the last few years, the ease of doing business has jumped many folds in Uzbekistan. We also have another luminary from the education domain who's been an institution builder, Professor Dr. C. Kumar, who in the last decade built the OP Jindal University as an important educational institution. Welcome, Dr. C. Kumar. We also have Mr. Kamal Solanki. The last 7.5 weeks have been about healthcare, about saving lives. So really the role of healthcare leaders and healthcare entrepreneurs is very, very important. We have Mr. Kamal Solanki, who's the CEO of the Venkateshwar group of hospitals. We have Mr. Vikram Vuppala, who's the founder and CEO of NephroPlus, and he's looking forward to establish his operations in the Republic of Uzbekistan. We also have Dr. D.K. Gupta, again from the healthcare domain, who is the managing director and chairman of the Felix group of hospitals, again looking forward to setting up healthcare infrastructure in the Republic of Uzbekistan. I just want to say that the fact that India and Uzbekistan at the highest level, at the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan and the Prime Minister of India have made sure that they engage regularly, shows the importance of this relationship at the highest level. What we are doing is a small initiative because of the encouragement we got from His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat, who's the ambassador of India to the Republic of Uzbekistan, and the encouragement from His Excellency Mr. Dilshad Akhtav, who's the ambassador of Uzbekistan, from the Republic of Uzbekistan to India. So really, I just want to say that this is a small initiative. It is about business, but both lives and livelihood go in together. Strategic alignments happen because there are shared interests, and clearly the ambassador, His Excellencies will both talk about why this relationship is important. His Excellency Mr. Dilshad Akhtav even has a small presentation to give a context, bullet points. So I won't steal the thunder from that. I just want to introduce Mr. Sudhir Mishra, and he will address you. I also have Ms. Niti Batra, who's the founder of Joy Travels, and she's the CEO. We also have leading lawyers from the Republic of Uzbekistan, who, in terms of market entry, in terms of market access, in terms of helping Indian companies get to Uzbekistan will help. We have received Mr. Ilkhom B. Azizov, who's a partner in Azizov and Partners Law Firm. It is, of course, based in Uzbekistan. We also have Sherzod, Utkirkhujaev, and pardon me if my pronunciation is not perfect. As I get to know you better, I think I'll get to perfection. We all are in the pursuit of perfection, but sometimes it can be elusive. So welcome Mr. Sherzod Utkirkhujaev, who's a partner at the Settle Law Firm. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Nodir, who's again partner at Grata International, which is a leading law firm in the Republic of Uzbekistan. I also want to mention, and Mr. Mishra will announce that this is the first year, but we have plans to, do cultural engagements around Mirza Ghalib, because Mr. Mishra will talk about that. Apart from being a lawyer, he has a rich cultural interest and a very literary side to him. He's a very prolific writer. And we would also request both the excellencies to launch a formal initiative. We are forming an India-Uzbekistan Business Council, a business corridor council. And over the next few weeks, we'll announce the leaders that will lead that. So that will also be done by the His Excellencies and in their presence. I would like to now invite Mr. Sudhir Mishra, who's really the brainchild and the fountainhead of this initiative. Mr. Mishra, I'd like to invite.
Thank you, Dr. Batra. Thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Manish Prabhat, His Excellency, Mr. Dilshad Akhtav. This is a great honor for me to bring together this particular event. This was almost a month's preparation we did for this. The idea is very deep-rooted. As a student of history, I always had a deep affinity with the entire origin of Mughal Empire, and subsequently after 300 years when Mirza Ghalib was born and he came to India, and he has a huge legacy in the Indian subcontinent, and we all respect. So the idea was to create a forum which will create the bridge between both the cultures all over again, because our cultural affinity is already there. The business has been taken care of. People like Vikram and people like Rajkumarji, they are already going from India to Uzbekistan. They are already plying many things in that country. I'm particularly excited about getting on board all the best law firms from Uzbekistan, which are going to be part of the second panel today. Grata, Settle, and Azizov and partners, they are very prolific law firms. And I keep on encountering on day-to-day interaction with Indian businessmen that what are the entry rules, regulations, laws, taxation issues in Uzbekistan, and how do we get over these challenges. So there were a lot of effort which has been done by my team, especially Simran, who has been working very hard to get the best law firms. And finally, the businessman and the lawyers will be able to interact on this platform. And in my panel, we will be actually bringing them together. That's one idea. The second idea is the cultural part of it. We surely want to announce not only India-Uzbekistan investment corridor today, we also promised that we are talking to the best literary people in Urdu and Persian. We want to start a festival for Urdu in Samarkand. And for that, His Excellency will request you, will come up with details and will bring together such a program that both the countries will be very proud. Just in the end, I will say a Mirza Ghalib share to kickstart the conference, because his shares are part of our legacy. We all recite in the course of a day. We all the time say, I'm saying something in Hindi, which is translated, it's in Urdu, but I have to pronounce it like this. Mulaqatein jaruri hai, agar rishte bachane hain. Mulaqatein jaruri hai, agar rishte bachane hain. लगाकर भूल जाने से तो पौधे भी सूख जाते हैं.
Wow.
This is one of the very simple Mirza Ghalib said. So we need to bring back the relationship. Relationships are good only if they are nurtured. With this note, I hand over to Khaiti to take forward the proceedings.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra. And for the unaware on this call, let me just give a small introduction to Mr. Mishra, although Dr. Batra has already mentioned that it is his brainchild. Mr. Mishra is an advocate and an eminent environment lawyer of the country, managing partner of Trust Legal, one of the leading commercial law firms in India. He has played a major role in organizing this conference between the Republic of India and the Republic of Uzbekistan. So thank you so much, Mr. Mishra and Dr. Batra, for setting the context of this very special evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving forward now towards inviting, with all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming His Excellency, Mr. Dilshad Akhto, Ambassador of the Republic of Uzbekistan to India. He is the ambassador of a country that is located in Central Asia. His illustrious professional and political career includes where he has been the head of different divisions and departments of Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Republic of Uzbekistan, former Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs to the Republic of Uzbekistan. He is currently the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Officer to Uzbekistan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to welcome and invite His Excellency, Mr. Dilshad Akhto. Very warm welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, dear Dr. Batra. Again, Dr. Mishra, dear colleague, Excellency Ambassador Rapat, dear distinguished speakers, honorable guests, dear friends. It's a great honor for me to greet all of the participants of this virtual conference on developing the future prospects of investment opportunities in India and Uzbekistan. I'm very thankful to the leadership of BEW, Businessworld, and Trust Legal Advocates and Consultants for taking the initiative of organizing this event, which will definitely contribute to the further developing mutually beneficial cooperation between Uzbekistan and India, especially economic ties between our countries. Dear friends, despite the negative consequences of the global crisis due to pandemic, the economy of Uzbekistan has shown stability. The available economic growth potential and the timely adopted anti-crisis measures made it possible to avoid a recession and maintain positive dynamics by the end of 2020, last year. And last year, Uzbekistan's GDP increased by 1.6%, and amounted to roughly $56 billion. Reforms in Uzbekistan during the last years, such as liberalizing the foreign currency market, establishing special economic zones with tax breaks for investors, has made the country a more appealing destination for international capital. According to the United Nations Conferences on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, 2020 World Investment Report, foreign direct investment inflows increased significantly in 2019, for example, to $2.3 billion compared to 2018. Total FDI stock stood at $9.5 billion in 2019. Uzbekistan ranked 69th in the World Bank 2020 doing business, same as the previous year. The country is among the economies that improved the most across 3 or more doing business reports. Since 2017, Uzbekistan has achieved huge positive economic indicators in the field of investment policy, which facilitate and in every way contribute to the business activity of entrepreneurs and members of the business environment. Below, we list a few key factors contributing to the developing of foreign companies in the Uzbek market. First, Uzbekistan has the largest and fastest growing market in Central Asia. Second, improving tax policy, especially reducing the tax burden. Third, Uzbekistan is very rich in natural resources, for example, gas, gold, cotton, oil, hydropower, etc. Fourth, social, political, macroeconomic and financial stability, including stable foreign exchange rate. Fifth, relatively low energy prices. Sixth, young and educated manpower is an important growth factor. 69% of Uzbekistan's population are aged between 15 and 65. Seventh, Uzbekistan is the most populous country, 35 million people, with historically significant cities in Central Asia, for example, Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva, and etc., that are the largest consumer markets in the Central Asian region. And eighth, the country has an advantageous geographical position in the heart of Central Asia, due to its proximity to major markets and is key to the Central Asian countries. Furthermore, free access of Indian goods to markets as well as promising sectors of the economies of CIA countries with a population of over 300 million people are coming to the fore in order to gain a foothold in the traditional niches such as information technology and software, pharmaceuticals and medical equipment, textiles, leather goods, etc. In general, the investment climate in Uzbekistan can be characterized as favorable and dynamically developing. I turn now to the economic ties between Uzbekistan and India. Proceeding from above mentioned opportunities, Indian entrepreneurs are achieving noticeable economic presence in Uzbekistan in almost all sectors. Currently, there are about 300 enterprises with the participation of Indian capital in Uzbekistan, including about 200 enterprises with 100% Indian capital. These economic and strategic partnerships are driving strong and robust growth despite the complex global pandemic situation. As of 2020, trade turnover between Uzbekistan and India reached to $442.6 million with increase of 24.5% It should be noted that the economic and trade potential of our countries is not fully used, unfortunately. Both sides need to intensify efforts to develop concrete measures to increase the volume of mutual trade. For example, carrot marketing research shows that there are great opportunities which we have to take advantage of. For example, pharmaceutical sector. The Indian side has achieved a noticeable economic presence in the region in the pharmaceutical sector. India accounts for about 30% of imports of pharmaceutical products from the Central Asian countries, taking into account the high priority of Uzbekistan and India cooperation on pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical industry. In 2019, pharmaceutical free economic zone Andijan Farm was established in the Andijan region, designed primarily for Indian investors. All conditions of communication, gas, electricity, water brought to the territories of the pharmaceuticals economic free zone. The participants of the free economic zones are provided with a free land plot to create a production site. By the main advantage of pharmaceutical free economic zones, this exemption of participants from almost all taxes related to the conduct of production activities. Today, in the territory of these free economic zones, with the participation of Indian pharmaceutical companies, more than 10 investment projects are implementing for a total amount of $63.1 million US. These are investment projects of companies of, for example, Kadila Pharmaceuticals, Macro Farm, Ansar, Sansar, Gold Andijan Pharma, Beta, UBK International PVT Limited, and others. Uzbekistan is highly interested in attracting Indian investments and advanced technologies to provide modern competitive drugs and creation of modern laboratory and research centers focused on the development of original drugs. Through implementing such projects, Indian companies will gain access to the Uzbek market. I would like to mention over 35 million people, which has the largest population in Central Asia. And at the same time, through free trade agreements of Uzbekistan with the CIS countries and Georgia, they can gain market access of more than 300 million consumers. One more branch or one more direction is textile. As you are aware, the textile and clothing and nightwear are strategically important industries for the economy of both Uzbekistan and India, actually. Uzbekistan has proven a competitive advantage in the textile sector because of its relatively cheaper skilled labor, as well as cheap rate electricity costs, allows manufacturers to reduce total costs of production. At the same time, textile companies in Uzbekistan can buy cotton at 10% discount compared to the price of the world market. Enterprises in the textile industries receive support in the form of canceling customs payments for important raw materials and equipments which are not produced in the Republic. In April this year, the European Union has accepted Uzbekistan as a 9th beneficiary country of the special incentive arrangement for sustainable development and good governance, GSP+. The European Union will start applying preferential tariffs for products imported from Uzbekistan under these arrangements from 10th April 2021. So we call on potential Indian companies producing high-tech textile equipment and companies with world-famous textile brands to use these opportunities and to implement joint beneficial investment projects in Uzbekistan. Tourism. Uzbekistan is a multi-profile tourism country which can offer a wide range of tourism directions and sites for tourists. In 2019, according to the Solo Travel Safety Report, Uzbekistan was in 5th place in this ranking out of 142 countries. There are lots of historical sites, 2,700 old-aged ancient cities, a lot of options to visit with families, most of them under the list of UNESCO World Heritage. Moreover, you are about large potential of Uzbekistan in pilgrimage tourism, ecotourism, culinary tourism, new infrastructure for winter sport lovers, and so on. Undoubtedly, the quarantine measures all over the world, as well as in our countries, due to pandemic, have affected the traditionally intensive tourist exchange between Uzbekistan and India. Despite the ongoing pandemic, we are taking practical steps to provide full service for foreign tourists now. Taking into account that tourism sector is main part of economy of Uzbekistan, and as well as India, we propose to organize joint events, including online format for further boosting of tourism flow in both directions from India to Uzbekistan and vice versa. For information, since March of this year, from Delhi to Tashkent, there are 2 direct flights per week in framework within the air bubble agreement. Education. We are not with great satisfaction the dynamics of the development of educational cooperation. The branches of Amity and Sharda universities are very popular among the Uzbek youth. In September 2020, last year, the Bukhara State Medical Institute signed a memorandum with the University of Noida International on the opening of its branch in this Indian university. On the basis of the branch, teachers of the Bukhara Medical Institute will teach Indian citizens admitted to study under the MBBS program. This is the first branch of the universities of Uzbekistan abroad. Currently, sites are working on the establish in our some regions branches of other leading Indian universities, for example, in IT sphere for IT specialists. Actually, IT sphere is very, very important in our relationship. In July 2019, the Technological Park of Software Products and Information Technologies, IT Park, was created in Tashkent with the assistance of the Society and the Software Technology Park of India. In 2020, branches of the IT Park were opened in a number of cities of the country, in our regions. For example, in Andijan, Jizak, Gulistan, etc. Active work in this direction continues. One more very important direction is handcrafts, pottery industry, for example. We also have to enforce cooperation and partnership between our handcrafts. Handcrafts in India are being made from centuries, and people around the world love these. They are skilled employers whose profession relies on manual skills. Association Hunarmand, special association for handcrafts in Uzbekistan, has about 20,000 craftsmen working on 25 direction of applied arts and produce more than 1,000 types of products. On the basis of the decree of President of Uzbekistan, those who are engaged of the individual labor activity are free of fixed tax and as well as customs payments for the items sold abroad. Establishing close cooperation between our crafts for the benefit of both countries, I hope. And there are a lot of other directions or branches or spheres in our cooperation, for example, healthcare, and so on and so on. Of course, our colleagues will speak about all of these directions. Dear friends, it's extremely important to consolidate our efforts in aforementioned areas, as well as assisting our respective companies to find proper partners, develop and implement mutually beneficial projects, and solve any issues arising in this direction. The demand for the implementation of these tasks is closely linked with India's foreign economic priorities to strengthen its position in the world as a major trade and industrial power. In this context, it should be emphasized that India is already among the top 10 trade partners of the region. Dear participants, I'm confident that systematic planning and holding such events like today's conference and business forums as a huge opportunity for the entrepreneurs of our countries to get acquainted with prospective areas of mutually beneficial cooperation, including the implementation of joint projects in investment and in trade. I would like to once again thank sincerely organizers of this event for its excellent arrangements. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, His Excellency, Mr. Dilshad Akhtar. Thank you so much. And I'm sure with his address, you've already gauged the formal ties that both the countries have in and how much encouragement each country is moving forward with. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like all of you to join me and welcome and invite His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat, Ambassador of Republic of India to Uzbekistan. His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat, one of the brightest Indian Foreign Service official of 1996 batch. He has been exceptional in his entire life. Even when he was the student of Delhi University, he was the topper of history. He also holds 37th rank in the exams for civil services, where he chose to become an Indian Foreign Service officer and not an Indian administrative officer. This was by choice. His Excellency Mr. Prabhat is known as a diplomat for CIS countries, and seeing his expertise in the issues of ex-USSR or CIS countries, he was posted as the Honorable Ambassador to the Republic of Uzbekistan. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome and invite His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat. Very warm welcome.
Good afternoon, all friends. Thank you very much for this wonderful, very warm introduction, Kathy. Thank you. I don't think I deserve that. Thank you, Businessworld, BW Businessworld, for organizing this very topical, very timely, intervention on Uzbekistan. Thank you, Trust Legal, under the leadership of wonderful Mr. Sudhir Mishra, who has really focused his attention on Uzbekistan. And, he has, I think that, he brought us all together today to focus on this important aspect of India's foreign policy and relationship with Uzbekistan, which deserves its attention in its full panoramic view. And, it is not just one another kind of foreign policy partnership of India. It's a very important partnership in its own right. And, there's a reason for that, because India, and, if we talk of Uzbekistan as belonging to a region called Central Asia, and India and Central Asia have always been partner, friends, neighbors throughout history, and more so with Uzbekistan. And, while talking of all that, we often lose sight that, today for us, if Uzbekistan or Central Asia region is a distant territory, probably in our imagination, I want to tell you that it is not so. It is just our neighbor. Only thing is that, since there is a physical barrier which has come, post-independence of India, we don't, we technically can't call it a neighbor anymore, but it has been a neighbor throughout our, history. And today we call it our extended neighborhood. So remember that throughout history, when we look back even 2000 years back, and I think that Mr. Sudhir Mishra was alluding to all the cultural connections between India and Uzbekistan. He's a remarkable historian in his own right, apart from his poetry and other things, and of course his legal acumen. But let us remind us once again that throughout history it was possible for people in India, people in Uzbekistan, at that time, people from these two regions to just walk to each other's regions. And there had been constant exchange and commerce between the peoples of the two regions. In fact, the city of Termiz in southern Uzbekistan was a very lively, thriving Buddhist center 2000 years ago. And after that, also the remarkable commerce has taken place always in history between the two countries. We of course know that how Babur went from this part of the world to India, founded the mighty Mughal Empire, and in fact all that which has been in history, and we have come together to this modern world. In fact, this session started with Mirza Ghalib, and I want to show you that the Embassy of India and the Indian Cultural Center brought this remarkable book on translation of Mirza Ghalib. Just very recently, we have put it in Hindi, English, Uzbek, Urdu. So all the wonderful sher and ghazals of Mirza Ghalib, was in we launched this book here in Tashkent. It is a lively link of history between India and Uzbekistan. So friends, thanks once again for inviting me and all of you, joining here on this important occasion. I want to tell you that India and Uzbekistan have been strategic partners. We call each other strategic partners, and this is a strategic partnership. While this is the 30th year of Uzbekistan's independence, and the 75th year of India's independence, we are going to have the 75th Independence Day soon. We have been strategic partners, for a long time, more so in recent history, and our partnership took a qualitatively new turn, after Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, made a visit to Uzbekistan in 2015. Then he came in 2016 again. Then, President, His Excellency Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev visited India in 2018. And within 6 months, he came for the vibrant Gujarat Summit in Gandhinagar in January 2019. You can imagine that, this, every year, the leaders have been almost each year meeting and, making visits to each other. In fact, in the year 2020 also, there was the planned visit of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to Uzbekistan. It couldn't happen due to pandemic, but there was a virtual summit on 11 December between our Prime Minister and President of Uzbekistan. And, a lot of agreements were signed, and of course, this relationship went further. So, this qualitative phase, now provides us an opportunity to focus our, vision on Uzbekistan. All the Indian partners who are present here, be they from the legal world, from the trading world, from education world, Uzbekistan is a very strong emerging opportunity. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev has just transformed the politics of the region. He has a vision of opening Uzbekistan's foreign policy for greater partnership with all the big and small players in the world. Invite people to Uzbekistan, the business to Uzbekistan, and invest here. And for that, my colleague, His Excellency, Ambassador of Uzbekistan, Mr. Dilshod Atul, went into detail that what kind of opportunities are available for foreign partners into Uzbekistan. I thank him for pointing this out, and always happy to work with my colleague, who has big responsibilities on his shoulder in Delhi, and both of us work together in tandem basically. Friends, I would like to tell you that when we talk of investment and trade, and today we are kind of launching an investment corridor, BW World and Business World and Trust Legal. It's a very good opportunity. And why? Because both our leaders have set us a target of $1 billion of bilateral trade, annual bilateral trade, while we have reached almost half of that. So, the target is away, but, we have to work closely on that. And what is happening on that? The two countries are now trying to think that whether we can have a preferential trading agreement in future. For that, a joint feasibility study has taken place. Its concluding remarks are now being finalized. Both sides are, in touch with each other. It is Department of Commerce from India and the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade in Uzbekistan. They are together finalizing a roadmap which probably will lead us to start negotiating a preferential trading agreement. Both countries are also engaging with each other. Negotiations are on to have a bilateral investment treaty, and which will bring a greater legal basis for investment to flow to each other's country. And India really wants to advance its development partnership with Uzbekistan. I think that India has a lot of experience as a developing country. We have our own technology. We can do good training, human resources, and we have offered our expertise to Uzbekistan also. Uzbekistan also has certain strengths. Both of us are developing countries, and we can exchange experience and partnership. And sometimes partnership between two developing countries is more efficient than what can come from the more developed world, because the technology cost can be very high. So India has announced $1 billion of line of credit for Uzbekistan for bringing several kinds of developmental projects into Uzbekistan, which are open for participation for Uzbek companies, Indian companies, or joint venture India-Uzbek companies, so that the business can focus on the emerging market opportunities in Uzbekistan. And right now, the government of Uzbekistan and government of India are negotiating some of the projects which have been identified to be undertaken in the $1 billion partnership. Now, the trade has really not taken off that much as we would like. And the main reason for that is probably the lack of overland connectivity. So connectivity is a big issue. There is no direct land route of trade between India and Uzbekistan, and we are trying to find the way. So what do? One is that India wants to really promote the partnership through the Chabahar port in Iran. As you know, that India, Iran, and Afghanistan had the Chabahar port agreement signed a few years back. India has developed Chabahar port and has offered a lot of concessions so that trade can flow between India and Central Asia through Chabahar port. The government of Uzbekistan is very much interested in the Chabahar port, and the governments of Uzbekistan, Iran, and India are talking together that how we can develop more usage of Chabahar port. So that's a very important development, and we have to take care of that. Of course, we also need to have air connectivity between India and Uzbekistan. Passenger flights are functional even in these COVID times, as Ambassador Akhatov was saying that Uzbek airways are still operating flights between Delhi and Tashkent. We also want air cargo, regular air cargo flights between India and Uzbekistan, so that trade can develop. And that would really provide opportunities for even perishable trade, which is not happening right now, which is agricultural commodities. Uzbekistan is rich in agricultural products, and India is also rich too. We can find each other's products in each other's market. Now, through connectivity, we also want to focus attention on emerging investment opportunities in Uzbekistan. There's a lot of opportunity for Indian business here, and I would like to inform you that Uzbekistan has now become very recently an observer in the Eurasian Economic Union. Now, Eurasian Economic Union is one common single market of Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Belarus, and Armenia. And Uzbekistan has now decided to become an observer there. So slowly that opportunity would also come when production in Uzbekistan would also find market in this huge landmass. And Uzbekistan also has GSP plus preferences in Europe and USA. So there is opportunity for Indian investors to come here, produce here, and also target the markets of Europe, USA, and Russia, Kazakhstan, etc., which is a big market. Now, as I told you that Uzbekistan is transforming itself into a new kind of modern economy, modern infrastructure, modern human resource development. And, we have now we have the all luminaries from education world, Amity University present here. I'm also happy that with the new kind of modernization happening in Uzbekistan, we also need to focus on investment laws and arbitration laws, etc. And I think that I must compliment you that this is the first seminar ever. I have participated in many business seminars, but this is the first seminar ever in which lawyers and legal persons are present from both sides, which is one important, which should be one important outcome of today's, seminar, because lawyers from both sides should also talk to each other, because they can only help, business. Now, there's a lack of knowledge currently, about Uzbekistan in India, about India in Uzbekistan. Of course, there's a lot of cultural, similarities, affinities, etc. But how exactly business is being run? For example, we see a lot of tenders in Uzbekistan now coming up in power sector or road sector or consultancy and other kinds of things. But generally, most of these tenders are in Russian. Of course, they are also now appearing increasingly in English. But we need to focus on them. And even though if Indian companies come to know of it, because of the language, they need some extra preparation for this. But I think that we all need to create some common pool basically, and which can be helped through the legal desk, etc. That we have interpreters, lawyers, etc., who would guide each other that how you prepare yourself to participate in these tenders. There are many tenders under Uzbek government's laws, their own funding, funds from World Bank, Asian Development Bank, etc. We really focus on that. There's a lot of prospect for Indian consultants to come here in the power sector, solar power, thermal power, hydro resources. Uzbekistan is rich there in road construction, etc., building construction, smart cities, etc., which Uzbekistan is focusing upon. Agriculture is one such promising area. Lot of Uzbek agricultural products have been given permission by Indian Agriculture Ministry to be sold into Indian market. Similarly, Indian mangoes, bananas, etc., have been given permission by Uzbek authorities to come to Uzbek market. But there's a lack of air cargo facilities between the two countries. So we really need to close this gap and understand that. There is pharma companies have been famous for Indian expertise here. There are many Indian traders here and companies which are doing here. But we need more and more Indian pharmaceutical companies, vaccine makers also to come here, and there's an Uzbek interest in attracting them to India. We need the Indian hospital and hospital industry to come here, and in fact, a lot of leading Indian hospital brands are already looking at the Uzbek market. Recently, Pratiksha Hospital from Gurgaon has opened its branch in Samarkand as a joint venture. Lot of Uzbek medical patients go to India for medical care. All that can take place here also if we create the infrastructure here. And we have the NephroPlus company present here. NephroPlus has just won a very great contract in Uzbekistan to conduct dialysis operations throughout the country. I mean so there's an important breakthrough for an Indian company to a proper international tender. So you can succeed in Uzbekistan provided you focus your attention in Uzbekistan. In terms of education, we have Amity University present here, Sharda University from India, Sambram University from Bangalore. They are all already running their campuses here. And more Indian private universities or other universities should come here, because Uzbek youth is looking for new kind of education, that education which provides access to the wider world. In fact, a lot of Uzbeks are now trying to learn English. Of course, they know Uzbek, they know Russian. They are trying to promote foreign languages. And President of Uzbekistan has made it a policy that all Uzbek students and civil servants should know at least 2 foreign languages. So you can understand that how much opportunity there is for Indian educational partners to come here, open campuses and run their vocational courses also, not only pure academic courses. So there's a lot of thing. IT Park was mentioned by Ambassador Atul. The Indian Software Technology Parks of India, they are the partners here in opening the first IT parks in Tashkent and in the regions. And now the Indian company should come here with the proposals for digitization of various kinds of services. So that there's a lot of prospect of digitizing services in Uzbekistan. Some of the call center operations are already taking place in India, from Uzbekistan, but more can be done. And of course, Indian IT companies should come here, look at opening data centers, etc. So a lot of prospects there. Textile is a leading product of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is one of the largest textile producers, cotton producers. And the president of Uzbekistan wants more manufacturing and processing to be done in Uzbekistan itself. So Indian textile manufacturers have that opportunity here. Automotive is another sector, because in Uzbekistan, a single brand Chevrolet is seen everywhere. So we need more and more brands, and the market's booming, and a lot of car production here. Indian car manufacturers should come and look at this market. So I think that there's a lot of scope. Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Rupani, came here with a 50-strong Gujarat government business delegation, and in 2019. And after that, we are trying to develop cooperation with Andijan region here in Uzbekistan. Now we are working to develop cooperation between Haryana and Fargana. So a lot of good prospects are there. So I would appeal to all of you to focus your business and legal attention on this happening place. 35 million population, lot of business prospects, and India Uzbekistan business relations, investment relations must fulfill its great potential. And tourism is an area, of course, which was mentioned, that all the historic cities, Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva are here. And if we promote tourism, it is like people-to-people relations which would be developing. So thank you for focusing your attention on India-Uzbekistan relations today. I appeal to you for your constant support. People from the legal world must take this forward and promote this kind of these kinds of deliberations that will help the Indian investors to come here and Uzbek investors to go to India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat. I can't even say it in words, but I'm sure all of you have gauged the wealth of opportunities that this collaboration is going to bring to both the countries. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move forward, I'm sure all our panelist speakers and Dr. Batra and Mr. Mishra would have some questions to ask both His Excellencies here. It's a great opportunity for us to have this conversation right here on this virtual platform. So I would leave the house open, or rather this virtual platform open for questions. Dr. Batra and Mr. Mishra, I'd like you to just moderate the questions here.
Well accomplished panelists, if you would like to have any queries, Atul, Chauhan, I know you've been doing Amity University's work in Uzbekistan, and you explained to me how the government was so welcoming and actually kind of partnered with you in a deep way to be able to set up the Amity University. Anything you would like to ask His Excellency Mr. Manish Prabhat or His Excellency Mr. Sherzod?
Anurag, thank you so much. You want me to tell about the experience right now, or at a later?
You can ask a question or tell. Both are okay.
All right. So first of all, let me congratulate Dr. Anurag and Mr. Sudhir Mishra ji for creating the India-Uzbekistan investment corridor. It was a great pleasure to listen to both the excellencies, the ambassadors, the inputs that you gave about the long historical ties between our two countries and the vast potential. And I personally have been to Uzbekistan multiple times since 2018. I still remember in September 2018 when the Honorable President of the Republic of Uzbekistan was on a state visit to India. I was invited for a dinner with a large delegation with him. And I was so impressed because he was meeting many people, but when he came to shake hands, he knew exactly everything about me and Amity. At that point, we realized if the leader of a country can be so dynamic, there is a great future. And what we learned under the leadership of the current president, the amount of liberalization that has happened in the country, a huge amount of foreign investment has come. And at that day, we committed to the government of Uzbekistan that we as a foundation would commit together to set up a university. And we have campuses in 15 countries, but I would like to very frankly say the speed at which I have seen the government of Uzbekistan work, the passion with which everyone works and implement, I have never ever seen anywhere. I will just give a very small example, for everyone who is looking here, wanting to invest into Uzbekistan. On one of the trips when I had gone to identify where we would open our university campus, and of course the Ministry of Information Technology, which was given the lead for this project, took us around Tashkent looking for campuses. In the evening, we had a closed door meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister of Uzbekistan, and we were discussing options. And I think he could read on my face that we were not satisfied with whatever 5-6 options were shown to us. So suddenly I see a big commotion. He's talking to his people, and then he gets up, he takes out his mobile phone and points on a map on his mobile. And he says, "Dr. Chauhan, what time is your flight?" And I said the flight was late night. He said, "Can you just go now and see this location? I think this will be perfect for Amity University to be there." And then he called, and it was a school, a current running school in the center of Tashkent. I remember he called the principal, and we all went in the middle, late night with torches we saw. And the Prime Minister directed that within a few months, this school should be vacated, should be shifted to a new location, and this whole campus should be given and refurbished for Amity University to be established. So I think this is the commitment that the country has to bring in investment, and we started with 300 students in the first year itself. In 2019, we started. We will now this year have 1,000 students. And I have personally interacted with so many of the students of Uzbekistan with us. And let me tell all the listeners from India that the youth of Uzbekistan is very intelligent, very bright. And what I have seen is they all have a fire in their belly to achieve something. And that is why they are wanting to come to universities like Amity. We've given them the opportunities to travel to our Dubai campus, to travel to our Indian campuses. And as the Honorable Ambassador was saying, that we are looking at a $1 billion trade between our two countries. I am very confident that with the facilitation that the government of Uzbekistan does to foreign investors, and with the brilliant people who are part and parcel of this country, there's huge potential for growth in investments and trade between our countries. And as a foundation, we are very proud. So I would just like to thank both the Excellencies for gracing this occasion, for always supporting, and all our teams, whether it is in India or whether it is in Tashkent, the support that we get from His Excellency in Uzbekistan and His Excellency in Delhi is phenomenal. And I think for any organization going to a foreign country, and especially in a country like, there are a lot of legal firms online. I think one very important for any company investing in a country like Uzbekistan is to have good legal support, because laws can be varying, and language is one thing one has to get used to discussing through translators, but it is something that one can learn very fast. And we as the Amity Foundation feel very privileged to have gone on the invitation of the government of Uzbekistan to establish the campus. So to both Your Excellencies, we are very, very grateful for all the support.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan. And really, I know this is exactly the sentiment Dr. Chauhan expressed when we were off screen, when I first invited him last week. So clearly what he's saying off the screen and on screen are exactly the same. And that's why I said I've had such a positive experience that I am very happy to talk about it. So thank you, because I'm sure it will encourage other entrepreneurs, change makers to be able to leverage on the opportunities there and build meaningful initiatives, industries, educational institutions, and collaborate. At this point, let me bring in Professor Dr. C. Kumar, who is the founding Vice Chancellor of the OP Jindal University, and he's done a stellar job in establishing the university and also the university's linkages across the world. Dr. C. Kumar, all yours. We'd like to get your comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Batra, and I want to thank BW Businessworld as well as my dear friend Sudhir Mishra and Trust Legal for really putting together a fantastic program. I do believe that such conversations with regard to both India and Uzbekistan have a profound role to play in shaping the future of this relationship. I want to thank Ambassador Dilshad Akitov as well as Ambassador Manish Prabhat for their presence and their very thoughtful comments and reflections about the strength of the relationship and the potential opportunities that are indeed available for creating and expanding this relationship. Now, quite remarkably, and I did not know this was happening, while my friend Sudhir invited me to be part of this discussion today, completely independent of this, my colleagues have been in discussions for the last several months to build a relationship with the university in Uzbekistan. And I have just come to know that tomorrow we are going to be signing a memorandum of understanding with the Tashkent State University of Law in Uzbekistan. And we are building a relationship which includes a number of student and faculty exchange program, joint research and joint education initiatives with the rector Kakuma Rakim Rusalbonich, as well as many other professors at the Tashkent State University of Law. So I'm very, very excited. It's fortuitous that we are having this conversation today. Now, of course, we are a relatively small university and we have no plans to go beyond where we are. But I want to quickly highlight what I think are probably 5 areas that I believe may not have sufficiently been reflected on today's discussions, which I think are important for the relationship. First of all, I do think that any relationship that is going to be strong and deep and pervasive between two countries need to transcend the economic and financial dimensions. While economic and financial dimensions are absolutely critical and will play a very important role for sustaining the relationship, I think it's absolutely important for us to recognize that. For example, if you look at the United States and India partnership, while we could have a largest trade partnership, the fact remains that India and US have strong presence at multiple levels, and education becomes a very important foundation to it. So I will start by saying that from the standpoint of our commitment to certain shared values, including democracy and pluralism, we need to build on these 2 critical values, which are important for both the countries, but also will shape the future of the world as well. The second aspect, I believe, is to build the capacity and strength of institutions. This is another area where we could do a lot of things together. I think while economic development is taking place in both the countries and definitely in Uzbekistan, it's also time for countries to focus on strengthening and building capacity of its institutions, which will help and build that future. Third, which I believe is absolutely critical and has been part of today's discussion, is that how do we promote rule of law and access to justice, including judicial capacity building, an area where India has significant experience to share. We have a strong and independent judiciary. We have a number of institutions which are advancing the cause of rule of law and access to justice. We have experiences to share, even mistakes that one shouldn't make. All those are part of an important learning experience I do believe that we should share with Uzbekistan. The fourth aspect, which I think we, particularly both Dr. Chauhan and I and others will find it of great interest, is the aspect of higher education, research, training, and capacity building. The fact is India has a fantastic and large, powerful higher education system. We have nearly 1,000 universities, over 45,000 colleges. The demographic situation in the country has attracted young people to come into the institutions for higher studies. While I am sure Dr. Chauhan and other universities which have built campuses in Uzbekistan will attract Uzbek students to join their universities, and I hope that happens. We strongly believe that many things that we do in this country will be of great interest to young Uzbek students who are interested in study of law and business and public internationalization of the higher education system in Uzbekistan. I was very delighted to read that just a couple of years ago in 2019 and 2020, the government of Uzbekistan had come out with some fundamental reforms, including two major laws in the field of higher education. We actually in India have just come up with the national education policy, which I think has resonates very strongly with what the Uzbeks have done just last year. And so these are important ways by which we could come together. So higher education is an important component to this relationship. I do believe that we have opportunities to welcome the students of Uzbekistan, the faculty members to pursue joint research and other types of engagement with our academic institutions. I also think that the opportunity for young people in Uzbekistan to come to India is not just about learning. They are also part of a cosmopolitan and diverse, intellectually engaging, vibrant, democratic community, which also will help them form lifelong bonds and relationships and friendships, which will ultimately shape their future as well. I think one of the things that all of us have experienced living in universities and hostels, I discovered, I learned a bit of history through my friend Sudhir Mishra. I also got to meet Manish Prabhat at that time, already a young and promising student who went on to become a distinguished foreign service officer. So those are absolutely critical aspects of youth experiences, which is what good universities can give. And I think it is also fair to say that the typical aspiration for young people who may have to go to the West may sometimes be economically unviable for many young people. And that is where a country like India provides fantastic opportunities with high quality education, institutional ecosystem that favors and enables people to come from around the world, including from Uzbekistan. So we need to build that engagement. And lastly, I will say that entrepreneurship and innovation and technology, these are three areas where India is at the forefront and doing things which I believe have a significant future. Young people from Uzbekistan need to look at these areas. These opportunities are available. Partnership with the Indian firms and Indian organizations can shape that. And I do think that the foundations of that relationship in promoting entrepreneurship and innovation and technology can actually be traced back to the education opportunities that India could offer. So in a way, building on what everybody has said so far, I'm very excited about what the possibility of relationship building of the future holds for both India and Uzbekistan. I do think, and as Manish Prabhat, our ambassador in Uzbekistan, said, that not much is known of this relationship. So that's why I'm very grateful to both Businessworld as well as Trust Legal to have pioneered this conversation. And I can only be hopeful that we will do many more things together. The fact that this is actually quite rightly involving law firms and lawyers from both the countries provides a very sound foundation for creating the business opportunity, the institution building opportunity, the higher education collaboration, the strength that the system of rule of law and access to justice and democratic institutions can provide for. All those things will augur well for the future of this relationship. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to both the ambassadors for their presence and their valuable contribution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sriraj Kumar.
One thing, Dr. Batra, I just wanted to say, after Dr. Sriraj Kumar said about his ambitions in Tashkent and he's already thinking about a cooperation with the Law University, Atul Chauhan sir also said something very, very important with regard to what is the future of education so far, how much Amity has put their foot there and how much ambitious he is about both the countries exchanging ideas on education. Let me tell you that I was part of few discussions of International Bar Association in developing Bahrain Arbitration Center. I assure you, Rajkumar, if you are reaching out there, we will create one of the best mediation arbitration center in Tashkent, because that will be a center which will be developed for all the alternative legal remedy in that area, with the both big universities being there, will greatly facilitated by that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Dr. C. Raj Kumar, for your comments. We will get in the three medical entrepreneurs, Mr. Kamal Solanki, Dr. GUPTA, and
Vikram.
You know, your name is a little tongue twister, so I have to, Mr. Vikram Vuppala.
Vuppala. Vikram Vuppala.
Okay. I'll call you Vikram Garu. I think that's simple. Garu means, you know, half. It's like older brother. So, you know, I'm you're there. So for others, at this point, I'd like to get Khyati in so that we can get both the ambassadors, His Excellency Akatov and His Excellency Manish Prabhatji, to unveil the brand identity and the logo of the India-Uzbekistan business, corridor. Khyati, if we can get the Businessworld team to bring the logos and we do the launch in front when both the ambassadors are there.